Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie and welcome to my channel called Fitter Philosophy, in which I stoically improve day by month, by year, by decade, my philosophy in life to get more out of life, and in doing so I take this opportunity to share it with you, and in these videos that I post onto YouTube. And what I'm going to share with you today is something which is quite anecdotal. It's something I experienced many years ago, and as you will probably understand when you hear my story, that I've never forgotten it and I'm never going to forget it. And I'd not long started as a trainee funeral director with the Cooperative Funeral Service in Glasgow, and part of my duties was to conduct funerals, which I did, and it was quite rich and varied in the styles, the different religions, the different families, the different churches, the different chapels, the different temples, the different cemeteries, the different crematoriums. There was a lot going on. It was a busy job, and this particular story relates to a funeral I did to a crematorium in Glasgow with a big flight of stairs in front of it. Now, it's quite an old crematorium, so as you can imagine, over the years and with the amount of footfall, the stairs got a little bit eroded, and it was a late winter morning, first thing, very dull and grey and overcast, when I arrived with a hearse and a car, with a family in the back of the car at the crematorium, and we proceeded to usher the family into the crematorium chapel, where the organ music was playing and the minister, the member of clergy, was waiting to deliver the funeral service. Now, something happened which I'm never going to forget in my life. I can sort of laugh about it now, but at the time it kind of shook me up a bit, and I'm going to tell you what happened. Yeah, because you'll find it quite bizarre. I was at the way we carry the coffin is there's two people at the front, two people at the back. So there's two people at the feet, two at the head, hands underneath the coffin carrying it waist height. And then we proceed into the crematorium up the flight of stairs. Except as we were proceeding, I stumbled in one of the steps when my foot slipped on the corner of the step where it had crumbled away with frost damage. And I'm holding the coffin under my hands, right, like so, and suddenly I move forward, my hand's still under the coffin suddenly pulls me down, and I face planted right into the step. My mouth, the top of my lip, just under my nose, caught in the corner of a step, and it busted my teeth right through my upper lip, which is one reason why for a few years I had a moustache growing to cover the scar. So this all happened suddenly. We're going up the steps, steps, crash. Literally within a second, I'd face planted, the foot of the coffin had landed on the step in front of me, the end of the coffin had smashed. I mean, it was badly damaged. And the three people that were carrying the coffin with me were just, they just froze in shock. It was quite a sound, and we're glad the organ was playing, but it wouldn't completely cover the sound of what had happened. But fortunately for us, the family inside the crematorium were busy talking amongst themselves. So I'm sure that some folk at the front seats probably heard, but fortunately nobody saw what had happened. Now immediately, the officiating religious clergyman came out down the steps and to see what had happened, at which point the attendant had joined him. I was left literally on my knees, still feeling my teeth protruding through my lip. One of them was already broken, the other was fractured. In considerable pain. My knees had taken a bang as well, so the attendant lifted the tail of the foot of the coffin. They proceeded in with the clergyman going sideways so that people inside couldn't see the damage to the foot of the coffin. As soon as they were inside, they covered the coffin with what's called the pall cloth, which is the cloth that goes over the coffin once it's on the catafalque, which is the pedestal that the coffin sits on before it goes through to the cremators, or down to the cremators. And the attendant came outside with my colleagues to see how I was. Now at this point, I'd had a few seconds to gather myself together, and I went to the hearse and had a look in the hearse mirror, the rear view mirror, and I could see that my white shirt, black tie, black coat, my white shirt was turned red, blood was everywhere. I had a handkerchief covering it, but it was soaking, so I had to grab the towel, a spare towel in the back seat of the hearse, which was used for wiping down the windows to clear off condensation. I had to grab that. At which point the attendant says, "You better get him to hospital, that's really, really bad." And I had a gash about 2 inches across the top of my lip. My chin was battered. I had a kind of numbness in my jaw as if I'd broken it or fractured it. So at this point, we had to leave the service in the hands of the driver to see the family back out into the cars, and I was taken in the hearse to accident and emergency department of a local hospital. Now you can imagine the sight it was when a hearse draws up outside an ambulance bay. We had to stop just a little way off to save any misunderstandings here. Anyway, I just saw myself in at that point to the reception desk at accident and emergency, still holding the towel over my face, and the lovely, lovely nurse receptionist behind the desk says, "What's wrong with you? How can I help?" It says, "I tripped on the steps going into the crematorium, and I've dropped the coffin and I've smashed my face and my teeth are broken." At which she goes, "Oh, righto, please take a seat." So she goes through to the nurse's station outside the attendants' cubicles, and I can hear her talking to a doctor. She said, "Well, can you describe the situation?" This is the doctor to the nurse. She says, "Well, he seems to be compos mentis," which means he's got his faculties, but he looks like a vampire that's just been in a bar brawl. That'll do. It sets some sort of picture. So the doctor immediately came out, a young lady doctor, who took one look at me, looked up and down going, "Would you come this way please, sir?" So I went through to reception and I said, "I'm very sorry to bother you, doctor, could you please check over, I've got one broken tooth, a fractured tooth by the looks of it. My teeth at that point, I'd separated them from the rest of the lip. I'd removed the lip from, the teeth were sticking down to lift the back out again." And she said, "That's a really bad cut, we're going to have to put stitches in. Now, could you tell me what happened?" So I explained it all again, and she started kind of looking away and going, I've never come across this before. Could you excuse me a minute?" And she went outside, and I could hear her trying not to laugh at the nurse's station. Then she came back in with a tiny little needle and a roll of stitching ligature, that's what they call it, and she proceeded to take her time putting about a dozen stitches in the front of my lip, and then she got this special sort of device to open my mouth so she could get access and do the stitches behind and the inside of my lip. Well, I'm saying lip, but it was above my lip, it was actually the area above. And she cleaned up the blood and cleaned and took away the towel, and someone gave it a rinse and a wash and handed it back still wet. Very, very professional, I have to say, very thoughtful of them. And then I went back out, the hearse still waiting, having phoned into the office and explained what the delay was. So I got back to the office about an hour and a half later, and I went in and I had a dressing over the sutures, and I sort of said, "You know, this is what's happened." Now, the first question the manager asks me, and has this accident been due to your negligence? To which I responded, no, this is an accident. It's happened due to the damage to the steps at the crematorium due to wear and tear and frost, and the fact of the age of the steps. Oh, we'll have to have an investigation into this, because, you know, there looks like there may be an opportunity for blame here. And I thought to myself, well, it's good to know where you stand with your employers. It's good to know the attitude and the culture of management. A few weeks later, after it settled down and healed up, I went to the dentist and I had a bridging crown put in. Now that's 2 teeth that's put into 1 tooth hole. The dentist did a very good job. He was very sympathetic when he stopped laughing about what happened. The family, they knew what happened, but they understood it was an accident and it was okay. And I think that the family's understanding was far more mature than my employer's taking the situation. But unfortunately, when you have an area of weak management, weak leadership, you have the blame culture rather than the explanation culture going on. And at that point, I was issued with a new shirt, which was too small. So I just went out and bought my own shirt to save any hassle. And my colleagues basically what's called taking the piss. That's what they did to me for months and months afterwards, after this incident. Which eventually, you know, you got to roll with the punches. It's one of these jobs where you have to have a very thick skin and robust sense of humour, because you're dealing with an absolute reality. All credit to the doctor. The stitches worked an absolute treat. There's virtually no scarring now. It's more or less healed up. She did a fantastic job, and I'm very, very grateful to the health service then, which was a different environment to what it is now, unfortunately. Although there are many health professionals who continue to do their very best under the circumstances, they still try to do their best for the customers who are the members of the public. And what did I get from that? What did I learn from the experience? What I really learned was you never know what's round the corner. Life can throw up the most bizarre situations, and you never know the minute when it's going to happen. It only happened once. It's never happened again, thank goodness. But I'll never forget that. There were other things happened to me during my work. If you're interested, I'll tell you about them, because I'm now thinking about them, because I'm writing a 3rd book now about my experience as a funeral director. And drinking whiskey, by the way, which is another thing I do. So that's my winter project this year, is to write my memoirs of working for over 20 years as a funeral director in Glasgow. Very, very interesting job, with some very bizarre happenings. And there we have it. That's my story. I'm fine now. 2 false teeth at the front, so I don't look like a vampire that's been in a bar brawl anymore. But when I told the guys that I work with in the bothy, that's what the reception nurse had said, they just wet themselves laughing at it. And there you go. I'm Ralphie. This is Fitter Philosophy. Thank you for watching. Click likey, subscribe, bell notifications, whatevers, and we'll see you soon. Time for the view. Sea view. Winter sea view. Some grey colours, but some good tones with it. See you soon. Bye.